Hey everyone, welcome back to Web Inspector, the semi-daily show for web developers. I'm your host Timothy Miller, and today is Minutiae Monday, where we talk about a little web development thing that might just make a big difference. Today I want to talk a little bit about EMs, as in the unit type, like pixels, but not pixels, it's EMs. And I want to do that because I feel like EMs is one of the most commonly misunderstood concepts in web development. I feel like a lot of people think they understand EMs and really don't understand how to use EMs. And people who have worked with me know that this is kind of one of my favorite topics to harp on because I think they're really cool when used well. I think they're really great for some things, especially when building responsive web pages. And I wanna show you why that is today. Let me show you what EMs look like first, in case you don't know what I'm talking about. 2em. So it's a unit of measurement like this. So you've got pixels, you've got EMs. These two lines say essentially the same thing because my default body copy size is 16 pixels. So 2em just means twice the current font size. So if the default font size for this H1 is 16 pixels, then 2em would be 32 pixels. I hear a lot of blanket statements about EMs. People saying things like, always use EMs for font sizes and never use EMs for anything else. These people are wrong. That is not the appropriate way to handle EMs. And in fact, I think using EMs for font sizes a lot of times is counterproductive. It can be useful. Now, line heights are another matter. Line height should always be relative. You should never use pixels for that. Never, never. Just do 1.5. That's, yep, relative is good. But pixels for font sizes actually a lot of times works out better than EMs. A very basic example that I want to show you for why EMs are useful is actually, I'm not going to show you the EMs first. I'm going to show you a CSS variable edition. So here are some badges that I created. They're just these blue badges with an SVG icon. And I wanted to be able to change the size of these badges based on one value. So I did that here by using a CSS variable. And you can see I've got one value here, and I can change that to 240, and they get bigger. And you can see everything grows proportionally. The icons, compared to the bubble they're in, are about the same relative size. And so are these bubbles. They're about the same size. And we could also make these super small, and everything still works out like you would expect it to. So it's really useful to build these types of things, especially for responsive web design, because a lot of times you'll want things to look the same on mobile, but you have less screen space, so they'll be smaller. So you build something like this so that you can have it look exactly the same on mobile, but then scale it up for desktop. And it's really useful. This is an okay way of doing it with a CSS variable. This is kind of what CSS variables are for, but in my opinion, this method is kind of sloppy. And I'll show you why here. So height and width, it looks good. You've got variable badge size, boom, that's done, that's easy. Padding is a little bit less easy because you want some space around these icons. I used padding to do that, and I had to divide that size by 8 to give it padding that I thought looked good. So, and it's a little bit of a weird number, like divided by 8. It's not even really easy to picture in your head what that would be. Like, what's 40 divided by 8? Just kind of an arbitrary thing. And then it gets even worse when we scroll down and we look at this counter. So this has a font size that needs changing, and font sizes compared to a 140 pixel value, it's hard to calculate that. These are like -8s, these are 0.3. It's just kind of all over the place. It's hard to figure out what's going on here. Not to mention you're using a lot of different things here. You're using the calc, you're using the var, and it's just kind of sloppy and messy, and you know, it's okay. It works well. It works really well, but it's more code than I would like to use. So this is where EMs come in. This is where I really like EMs because they're concise, they're simple, they're easy to grasp. Let me show you what those look like. So over here we have another example, and we've got the icon bubble, we've got the font size 32 pixels. And if we change this value, you can see it does the same thing that the other example did. We've got a little problem there, but these look mostly the same as the other example. This does not have to do with ems, that's just my mistake. So we'll go back to 32. Now, what this is doing, as you can see, height and width are 4em, which is just 32 times 4. You can change this font size, it changes all this stuff. We've got padding 0.35. This is a little hard to tell what's going on. You just kind of have to mess with these numbers sometimes. But that looks good. Now, if we scroll down to this other section, here's all the other ems for this. And this, to me, is much easier to understand because there's a lot less going on. This is just, there's lots of steps to get to your end result. This is just, I mean, it's one number for each thing, and it's really easy to tell, like top and left are the same, font size is the same, and actually we can fix what's going on here right now if we just bump up this font size. And this showcases another really handy thing about ems, and that because they're relative to the parent container, if you don't have a font size here, then these use the parent container, which is this badge. But if I decide that these are just a little bit too big, instead of tweaking all of these values, I can just do font size 0.8em. And it changes all of these font sizes down all at once. And it gives you independent control over each child element. And also, if you decide you don't want to go by this container's value, you can also set this to pixels if you want to give it an absolute value to go after. Or you can use rims, which is beyond the scope of this video, but rims are pretty useful too. And 0.8 rim, that would just go with this body. Well, it goes with the root element, so it'd be the HTML element probably. So guys, that's just a little bit about why I think ems are useful. I think they're super valuable for this sort of thing. Of course, you can do it with CSS variables like I showed you, but I think ems still have a very legitimate place in the web developer's toolkit. And I would love to see this more often in websites. I rarely see people using this technique, and I think it's just so useful, so valuable, and so easy to understand what's going on here. So thanks for joining me here today, guys. If you like what we're doing here, give us a thumbs up, and I guess we'll see you next time. Remember, guys, never stop learning. Bye.